Hello, Margaret Gilbert here, parent and adolescent coach. I'm coming on here tonight live to talk to you about the non-violent resistant parenting programs that we will be facilitating over the coming months. I will be joined today by Maggie O'Sullivan. She's a life coach and she lives near Kenmare. She specialises in happiness and well-being, and she has over 20 years plus experience in education and facilitating group work, which includes an awful lot of parenting courses. And she's a working mom of 2 sons of primary school age, and she loves everything that is outdoors. So this parenting programme, Non-Violent Resistant, it was developed by Hayne Omer. Is a psychologist, and it is an alternative to the traditional parenting programs that are out there. It is a brilliant program for generic parenting, but it is also a program that you might consider right for you if you have a child with neurodiversity, such as autism, ADHD. It is good for children that don't respond to the normal parenting skills, strategies and tactics that are encouraged through other parenting programs, such as choices and consequences, when the children have no interest in the consequences and they have no interest in changing their behaviours to earn the consequences. Also, it is very good for children that are going through the turbulent adolescent years. I have my notes here alongside me because when I'm live, I'm likely to forget things. And it is also for children that are prone to emotional outbursts, that find it difficult to regulate, that are resistant again to the normal interventions that parenting programs offer. So again, this program works very much on the relationship, building the relationship with the children, learning to regulate first and relate, and then to problem solve after that. These behaviours are not acceptable. What are we going to do to change things? So it's a very, very powerful programme. We have 2 programmes coming up. One is on in the mornings. It starts the 2nd of September, and that is in partnership with the Phoenix Women's Centre. If you're interested in joining that programme, for further details, you can contact the Phoenix Centre on 066 91 30430. Now, the second programme will be in the evenings. It's Tuesday evenings, and it starts the 7th of September, and again that's evening 7:30. So if you are interested in joining us in that programme, information on it can be got on my website, markgilbertlifecoach.com, or you can also phone me on 087 174 7813 for more information. Now, I'm just going to ask Maggie O'Sullivan here. I think she's here to join us. We have done... It hasn't worked out very well, so fingers crossed all will go well this time. Hello, Maggie. This live Facebooking I do find challenging on occasion, but hopefully we have got it sorted tonight. Our connection failed. I'm just going to try it there again. Oh, Maggie.
Hello, Margaret. How are you?
Good. Now, yes, I can see your face now, Maggie.
Yeah, it really didn't want me to be in kind of landscape orientation. It really wants me to be in. So look, I'm upside down now. Look at that. For excitement.
Yes. No, I was just saying, Maggie, while I was waiting for you to connect, this Facebook Live
tried to beat us a number of times, but we have
I know it's
conquered.
our first success. Yeah, well,
Oh,
it's a success for most of me. You can only just see a bit of me,
yeah.
but there you are. Better than nothing.
Yeah, no, you're coming up quite well now.
Okay.
And it just goes to show that if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. Persistence and abstinence.
Absolutely. Is this our third or fourth attempt?
Yeah, it's a good few. So I suppose, Maggie, if you're okay with it, we'll dive right in. I have told our viewers that you would be joining me. I have told them you're a life coach
Yes.
and that you deal with happiness and well-being. You have extensive experience in education and facilitation, but you have done a massive pile on parenting programs. So what I'd be very interested to ask you tonight is, what's do you believe is different between the normal parenting programs that you have delivered in the past and this new one, the nonviolent resistance that you have begun delivering with me in the last 2 years?
Well, the key thing is that the focus in most parenting programs is primarily on changing the child's behavior. You know, it's kind of support strategies and techniques for managing the child's behavior. You mentioned consequences there and choices. So I've done a lot of that over the years in the other parenting programs that I've experienced, both as a parent and then as a facilitator. And the difference with NVR is that it's about our role as parent, and it's about our part in the dynamic in the house, because that is really all we can change. They say all you can change is yourself, and by directly changing your own steps in the dance, you change the other person's responses then, and it changes the whole dynamic. That's what I think was the key one. There are lots of other areas of NVR that really jump out at me as being more powerful than in other programs, but that's the main one, is that it involves that reflection on yourself, mindfulness about your own involvement in this situation and your own chance to change, your chance to make a choice, reflecting on, like, thinking back over when things went wrong and going, oh yeah, if I had said this instead, or oh, if I'd just gone and made a cup of tea then instead of staying in the room, or, you know, so reflecting on your chance to make a better choice.
Right, can you give examples of where you have used it and you have made changes in yourself and your parenting style, but without working directly with one of your children or what have you, it has changed the system. So it's a systems theory, whereas if one part of it changed, the other cogs have to move in some direction.
Yeah.
So again, can you give examples of exactly where that has happened?
Well, you know, you mentioned emotional outbursts there earlier on in your introduction, and I was prone to those myself. It wasn't just my children were prone to emotional outbursts, you know. I take my parenting seriously. It's a job I really want to do well, like everyone. So the patterns that I had built up was that I was constantly in teacher mode and constantly trying to make everything better and everything perfect. And I found with the NVR course, an important part of it is choosing which behaviors you're going to work on, accepting that you can't fix everything, and choosing that you're going to prioritize these ones and leave those ones till later. And so I found that decision was very powerful, that it took the pressure off me to be trying to fix everything. And that meant then that there was room to bring back in a bit of fun and to improve our relationship in that way, that I wasn't constantly trying to correct and guide and lead. I could just be me for a bit. And that changed the dynamic. And that was all in my head. Like, the children didn't know that I'd made any decisions about, I hadn't brought them into that process about going, yeah, I'm going to leave the football gear alone for now and I'm going to work on this and that, So I thought that was a really powerful behind the scenes shift that definitely changed the dynamic, because once the pressure is off you a little bit, all sorts of changes can start to happen once you give yourself a bit of space.
Yes, and I suppose what's interesting there, you said you narrowed down all the things you were going to correct that down to 2 behaviors. So prior to narrowing down, how many times a day do you think you were correcting, getting in with kind of almost negativity towards your young person, so that
Don't mind
all they were,
almost negativity. It was definitely, there was a lot more correction than connection going on. And
yes,
they were out of balance.
would you put a percentage on that?
In public. It would vary day to day, but it was certainly tipped towards correction. I'll put it that way. Like we'd be looking at least 70-30, you know, on a bad day, we'll say. Other days, you know, I might have other things on my mind, but yeah, some days there would be far too much correction and guide, you know, do it this way, now try again. And no, that's, you know, like I'd go through different systems. We'd go through phases of trying different consequences and choices and time out, and we did all of that.
Yeah, and I suppose what I'm getting from that as well, Maggie, the child, right, was getting 70-30 corrections. So that's a lot of kind of feedback of you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, without actually saying it, but correcting the all that. So
Yeah,
that has impact for confidence and self-esteem. But it
100%.
also sounds draining for the
Yeah, for
parents.
both
It's
of us. Yeah,
constantly on red alert.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And constantly feeling that something's wrong, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So I suppose it brings us back to the actual importance in parenting, that there's, no matter how bad things are, there still are things that are okayish and all right, but we're
Yeah,
so zoned in and focused that we can't see them.
yeah, because you, like I said, you're really trying to do your best and trying to get everything right. Because it's high stakes. Parenting is high stakes. But then when you go, you know, actually, this is the most important thing, and we'll do this or these two things for now, that then sets off like a cascade of success for you and for your child. When you see things start to change, it reminds you that things can change, and the small changes build your confidence then for the bigger changes.
Yeah, and I suppose, would it make you more aware as well, Maggie, from what you're looking at, is that it's actually the relationship is the most important thing,
Oh
not that
yeah,
they're doing everything right, or not that, but that you can actually connect, have fun, do things together, chat and talk.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more that that's the key part, and that was really underlined for me in the program. I mean, I like the fact that it it explicitly encourages parents to focus on the relationship with their child and rebuild it, because it's aimed at people who are going through tough things, going through verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, you know, feeling insecure in their role as a parent. They're tough times to be going through. So I really liked the fact that then that emphasis on relationship building, because it gives you back the good parts of being a parent,
Yeah,
you
it,
know.
it gives
And
you
that,
nourishment.
yeah, nourishment is a good word for it. Yeah, support. And you also, by working with other parents, you're going to see that you're not alone, that your challenges aren't unique. And that breaks down the shame side of it, because we all think we should be perfect parents. And, you know, am I not a natural mother? You know, those kind of questions. What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? This is my fault. And again, I think that fuels that constant correction pattern, that you're going, I made this problem, so I'll fix it, you know.
Yes.
But then when you're looking, then instead you shift your focus towards rebuilding a relationship with your child.
Yes,
That just
and I
feels so
suppose
much better.
it does, doesn't it? It's connection. And I suppose at the end of the day, humans, all they want is to be heard and listened to.
Yeah,
So if we're constantly giving out, correcting, fixing, and there's no time to rebuild that relationship, where are the children being heard?
yeah, exactly.
So it's about, if we can, like you said, stick to the 1 or 2 behaviours. So in the programme, we look at the baskets and we get parents to identify 2 behaviours that are the most challenging for them at the moment. And we ask them to ignore other behaviours that are put into just the green basket just for the moment. We're not ignoring them. They can be addressed in the future, but we can look at success then when we do things. You mentioned it earlier, bit by bit.
Yeah.
So
Aiming at
if we,
progress, not
yeah,
perfection.
exactly. So it can be documented. And what kind of, the program looks at reconciliation gestures and things to build that relationship. You've spoken already about the fun, bring back the fun element into it. Of course, that's possibly one of the biggest building blocks, but reconciliation gestures are very much part of the program.
Yeah, they are. I mean, the power of buying someone something they like, even when they haven't asked for it, they don't even know you're in the shops, and you come back with a treat. It works for husbands as well, I find, not just children. But the power of a box of Tic Tacs, €1, and puts that smile on someone's face. We all like to know that someone's thinking about us. And
Yes.
as a parent, you're the most important person in their heart. You may not be the most important person in their life, but you are the most important person in their heart. And so for you to make a gesture like that, it can be so powerful. And it doesn't have to cost you anything. It can be a cup of tea, a smile, a touch on the arm. But that little thought that even when you had a big row this morning or things didn't go well last night, that it just shows you're on their side. You're there for them. It's a way of demonstrating. Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, and I suppose you've a lot of parents, we come up against the argument a lot of times, but we're rewarding them for bad behaviour. But the program promotes that regardless of how bad things are, I'm still your mom or your dad and your parent. I love you. I'm going to stay with you till the bitter end. Yes, there's a lot of behaviours that I don't like, I don't accept, that aren't right, but we love you. And the relationship is really, really important to us. So I suppose we support them then to make the shift from not reacting, in the heat of the moment, waiting till things have calmed down, and choosing to walk away from arguments, the invitation to escalating arguments and fights and bickering, name calling, pushing, shoving. It gets higher and higher up the scale all the time. So we encourage parents to walk away from that at the time, because the logical problem solving part of the brain has actually disconnected from the emotional brain when children and adults get into that cycle that is going nowhere. So we are asking parents to choose to take the powerful option, walking away, remaining calm, remaining the child's anchor in that point in time, no matter how high you're going to escalate, no matter how upset, no matter how many screams and roars, I am still the anchor down here, and you'll have to come down to me in the end.
That's a
Because
great description.
I'm not going up there with you. So have you found what strategies help you to walk away from the invitation to an escalating argument?
I'm laughing because I totally fell off the wagon last week and escalated madly. Nobody is perfect.
Absolutely not.
I'm still at the coalface with 2 young children, and it's day by day, really. And yeah, I totally fell off the wagon and I went hi. I jumped right into the boxing ring. But normally the strategies that help me to walk away is, like you said there, you said it indirectly, that we try and separate out the behavior from the person. That there's behaviors I don't like, but I love you. So in the moment, I try and separate those out and just go, this is just behavior. This is just, he's tired, or he's upset about something else, or you know, he really doesn't want to be here. He's doing something. He's doing this to try and get out of what I want him to do. You know, it's a strategic choice on his part. I try and sort of break out that it isn't him being mean or, you know, any bad personality trait on his part. And that gives me the little bit of distance to just go, I'm a great fan of going off and making a cup of tea. I'll come back to you. We'll talk about this in a few minutes. I just need to do something. We'll talk again in a few minutes. Or I sometimes would name it and say, look, I'm feeling myself getting really angry, and I don't want to be angry with you now over this. I want to cool down before we talk. You know, because I like naming it for him. It helps him to name it for himself.
And
then
you're actually role modeling with your own behavior, how you could be welcomed into this argument, but you're choosing to resist it. And you're even letting the child know that that is difficult for you to resist it, but your strategy is that I'm moving away to have a cup of tea or what have you. And you're using the strategy of distancing the behavior from the person. You're separating it completely. And I suppose what's interesting there as well, Maggie, is you said it's an option that he's choosing to not do what you may have asked him to do. Now, the course very much focuses on what might be triggers for the child, what might be the function behind their behavior. So it opens our eyes to the challenges, especially the child with neurodiversity might have. So what in the program kind of wakes that up for you or brings it into your parenting?
Well, the program gave me, as I say, that perspective, you know, that I'm an equal partner in the dynamics that are going on. That was a big one. But it gave me a new way to think about that. Maybe new vocabulary is the best way to describe it. Like you mentioned there, escalation, and that invitation to argue, invitation to join in. I hadn't seen it in that way before. So I found the program really helpful in that way, giving me a new way to talk about, a new way to notice what was happening between us, what was happening in the house. So that was really powerful.
Yes, and
sometimes
in terms
that's all you need. It's just that awareness of being able to go, oh yeah, look, it happened again. And that's what happened the other day. It's what happens every morning. Because as you say, patterns and triggers, your own and theirs. What was going on for me? What's going on for them?
Yeah. So, and I suppose I know recently we had one dad that kind of said, look, wouldn't it be a lot easier manage my son's behavior than me trying to, the success of this course rests on the parents resisting the invitation to go in, on the parents remaining regulated and role modeling for the children that, you know, yes, you can be upset and angry and all that, but I'm not joining with you in that. But when you come back down to normal levels, we'll engage and we'll sort things out. But one day was saying it's wouldn't it be much easier to look at my son's behavior? So I remember someone saying to him, well, what age are you? He was 40 something. And the child was 14. So he had huge expectations that the child could regulate and manage himself and that everybody else could fix him. Whereas he was saying, and then he kind of laughed and he said, yeah, okay, I get it. So it is sometimes I mean, I know when my children were younger as well, you know, they're all grown up and they've left home at the moment, and I still have to actively look at my parenting as well, even down to the listening. Am I feeding back what they're saying? Am I dictating? Am I, you know, talking about stuff that doesn't even matter to them, you know, that kind of way. But when mine were younger, I certainly got in the escalation traps, especially around the teenage years and all that kind of thing. And when I look back now on what could have been done better to maintain the relationships, the engagement, the conversations and things, the NVR would have fitted that gap very much for me. I would have done Parenting Plus, and I'd have trained in Parenting Plus in the incredible years and things, but I still could have done with the NVR to resist those escalations. Again, how am I regulating? And it would have taught me much earlier in my life that personal care, self-care, regulation comes first
Yes.
So then we can relate to the children and engage with them and role model for them.
Yeah, I've engaged with Parents Plus programs over the years as well, and I've attended them as a parent, and they're excellent. But these add-ons that you get in the NVR, I think for these tough times are very useful. You mentioned parental self-care. The course also talks about how to gather a support team around you and how to be aware of the supports that you have, that you aren't alone as a parent. Even if you're parenting alone, what are the supports that are in your life for you, and the importance of drawing on them. And I really liked that as well. You know,
Yes.
how to draw on the support that is a co-parent if you are co-parenting, but then also to draw on other supports in your life if you're parenting alone, and the importance of them, and to not
Yes.
try to be all things to all people.
That's it. And I suppose what's very important about the developing that map of supporters with participants on the course is they define their supports. They define what the family might be helping them with. A grandmother might be brilliant for babysitting. A grandfather might be great for sit-ins. Whereas we might have friends that would be very good to go out with, so that you have a bit of relaxation and enjoyment, and talk anything but parenting or the challenges you're experiencing on the night. So often parents don't look at people as those kinds of supports that we tap into. We might have a sister that we might expect more support of, but that sister may not understand what support you'd like from them. So it is about supporting participants to be able to write out, this is what I would like help from my sister, so that they become very aware. So it is the parents, they're underpinning the parents' own authority. That is, the parents decide what support they want, what support they need, what each person is going to provide.
And the self-awareness in that, the reflection on your own situation. Well, what supports do I have now? And like, do you even dare to dream of asking for the supports you want? You know, putting it into words and standing up for yourself and saying, I could really do with this help. Can you help me? You know, like parents, I know that in some settings, the NVR is delivered to parents with like who are experiencing physical abuse, and they can ask for backup from other parents or from friends or family members. And I mean, that sort of support for someone in that experience would be so vital, to not be facing into a scary situation alone.
Exactly. And I suppose it comes to the point.
There's all different supports, isn't there?
There is. And you're looking at schools, you're looking at disability teams and all those parenting coaches, life coaches. It's a whole system, counselling, the whole lot is a support system, but it's about looking at it and managing it, so that, just an example would be, if all the family arrive of a Sunday for a visit, and dividing them up to one come Tuesday, one come Thursday, one come Wednesday, provide more support spread out over the week, maybe much more valuable resource and things to have. But I suppose going back to the support system again, for parents that are experiencing very challenging, violent and aggressive behaviour towards parents, property, through shouting, arguing, name calling, pushing, shoving, hitting, hair pulling, all that kind of thing. The first step to actually breaking that cycle can actually be bringing in supporters to be witness to that, or even to be able to say to the young person, I'm engaging the support of X, Y, and Z to help me manage these behaviours. So the first time it's actually brought out into the public can actually stop the behaviours, because the young
look at the shift
people,
in the power dynamic. You know,
the young people believe there's secrecy, there's comfort and ability to continue it if there's secrecy surrounding it and nobody knows. But yet
they can dominate in that quiet space. They're dominating the parent that they're scaring, hurting, you know, whose property they're damaging. And by opening up that space, then that power shifts.
Exactly. And it can be hugely effective, even just naming it to one or two people that are very important to the child in their lives, can often change that significantly and very fast.
Because we'll all do things in private that we wouldn't do in public.
Exactly,
and by shifting
exactly.
that context, and like that assertiveness is part of the program as well, isn't it? You know, that
Hmm.
speaking out for yourself, you know, like you were saying, sitting down and saying, I'm going to be the anchor, I'm going to stay calm. It's a presence of mind and an assertive position that can be so helpful. You know, that shift in the power dynamic where you're going, like you're announcing to the child that I'm not going to stand for that anymore. I don't
Yeah.
like the way things are going, and I've decided to change a few. There's going to be some changes around here, you
Yeah,
know.
and the first change is I'm enlisting these supports to help me,
Mm.
because I suppose non-violent resistance success very much depends on having supporters. Because if you're a parent or parents parenting together, co-parenting or lone parenting or whatever, it's very hard to have that going on day in, day out. It's wearing, it's exhausting. But even knowing you have a support system raises the energy, and it's
Yeah,
people to lean on so that it isn't as heavy on your own shoulders.
yeah, exactly. They can be
Yeah.
indirect support or direct support, as you said, just the person who gives you a bit of space to be yourself and not be a parent for an hour, you know.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be direct parenting support. And I
Yeah.
think, as you said, that's why some people don't even think of those friends as part of their support network, but they are.
Yeah. And I suppose that's what makes the NVR significantly different from other courses. Participation on this course does not require the young person to change their behaviour. It does not require them to become involved, give permission for the parents to attend or anything. It's the parents that come. It's again down to the systems theory. It's some of the cogs change and the way they interact and things, then the other cogs often have to move and shift as well. So
Yeah.
it's powerful, really, because parents feel helpless. They can't change the other person's behaviour, but there's a load we can do to change our own, and that involves staying out of the boxing ring.
Yeah. I remember you saying that phrase to me very early on, and it's so powerful. You
It
getting
is,
into
it
that
is,
ring is a choice.
it is, and staying out of it, resisting that argument and walking away in the heat of the moment is actually a very powerful choice. And what we're actually saying to our young person is, I love you very much, and I'm choosing to respect our relationship here and walk away from it. But then
Yeah.
we come back again. Now, we're not going to go into it, Maggie. Our time is running short here tonight, but maybe we'll have
Mm-hmm.
another interview in a week or two again. But what we look at is going back and doing announcements and sit-ins. The behaviour that was the invitation to get into the boxing ring on the night, it's not acceptable, we're not going to take it. So we deal with that behaviour when the iron is cold. It could be a day later, it could be 2 days, when things are really, really cooled down, when people are calm and their logical reasoning, problem solving brain is connected to their emotional development, and everybody's able to do a bit of problem solving. Then
Yes.
we're naming the behavior. It's not acceptable, it's going to be stopped. We name the supporters that are helping us, and we ask the young person for a solution.
Mm-hmm. And once again, what a lovely power shift that is.
Exactly. And we may well say the young fella may not give us a solution. All we need to say is, that's okay for now. We will revisit it again.
Mm-hmm. I'll be
And
back.
I'll be back to that. So
Yeah.
it's not letting any of the behaviors go. It's not letting them off with anything, but it's
Mm.
dealing with them in a really respectful relationship rebuilding manner.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which is, it reduces the distress of the young person. It increases the confidence and the self-esteem of the parents, and reduces the
Yeah.
sense of helplessness, because there's loads can be done without trying to force the child to make changes. That's impossible. We can only change ourselves.
Yeah.
We can change other people, and children are showing us that time and time again. when they get into the rut of not responding to the normal parenting skills or the normal
Yeah.
parenting course strategies and tactics.
When we change, others may change. And when we focus on our own happiness and our own well-being, I encourages other people to do the same. It almost gives them permission to be different. It gives them permission to change things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we've so
And
much more life experience than our children. They grew up
that's it.
in pattern A, and like they can't be expected to know that there's actually, you know, loads of other ways we could be dealing with each other, loads of other ways we could be living. You know,
Yeah.
like some families experience upheaval and change and some don't, and some relationships change, and some are very stuck. But we always, as the parent, you always have more life experience than the child. And by changing yourself and shifting your focus, it can just cascade out these options and opportunities for change to your children and to the whole family.
And I suppose that's the essence of a meaningful, fulfilling relationship with a child and a parent, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is. Yeah.
That you take all that argument out, is the role modeling, the problem solving together, being constructive, the play, the fun, the nice parts of the relationship that often get forgotten in all this
Yes. The nice
escalation.
parts, the fun stuff.
Yeah, and I suppose the non-violent resistance, while it does address aggression and abusive behavior and all that kind of thing, it is extremely good at reducing it. It may not get rid of it because the behaviors are there, the underlying difficulties are there, but it does make a huge impact and a huge difference for both the child and the parents and the family. I suppose that's something that we might come back to again, Maggie. We won't have time to go into it here tonight now, is the impact of all this escalating arguments between parents and child and child and to siblings and all that, with all the violence and all that kind of thing in the home. That impacts everyone in the family.
It really does.
It
really
does.
does. The siblings especially.
Yeah. So it's a whole discussion for another night.
Rightio.
Yeah. So Maggie,
It's a
I
date.
want to thank you. I want to thank you very much for joining me here tonight.
My
And
pleasure,
I just,
Margaret. It's a subject I'm very passionate about because I've seen the effects of the NVR. I've seen the groups we've worked with have such great outcomes that you could see week by week. You could see the parents' body language changing as they came into their own power, and
yeah,
that feeling of helplessness faded away, and they started to feel stronger and more confident in themselves. I mean, it's amazing. So I would recommend the program to anyone.
excellent, excellent. So again, I just want to remind our viewers, Maggie, that we're facilitating our next program. It starts at on the 7th of September, and that's an evening program. It's from 7:30 till 9 at night via Zoom. And if anybody's interested in that or knowing more about it, I can be contacted on 087 174 7813, or you can look at my website, margaretgilbertlifecoach.com. And I'm also facilitating one for the Phoenix Women's Centre, and that will be on Thursday mornings, and I think it's a 10 o'clock start. If you're interested in that one, you need to contact the Women's Phoenix Women's Resource Centre on 066 91 304 30. So if anybody has any questions or comments they'd like to make on it, I'll collect them afterwards and I'll respond to them. Thanks again,
Super.
Maggie.
Good night,
Thanks,
Margaret.
good night. Bye now. I must just figure